Um, okay, so the second learning objective is to know how to identify and justify a topic of research within the services of health and social care. So the first learning objective that we covered was basically what research is, what the different types of research are, what are the different tools to collect data, and how do we collect data, how should the data be collected actually. It should be unbiased, it should be timely, it should be accurate, um, and it should lead to practice, a change in your practice. So how do you actually identify, and after identification, how do you say that of all the topics, you just chose this topic? How do you justify that? So within this, you will learn that you're considering potential impact of your research, you're using evidence-based medicine or practice, identifying potential participants or a sample, ethical considerations within that research, developing a timeline for research those, because it can't be unlimited, the duration, it has to end at some point. Presenting potential evidence-based practice study. What is evidence-based practice? We've talked a bit about it. We'll talk more in detail. Aims and objectives. What is the reason you're doing the study or the research? Understanding and methods of conducting the research project. You need certain permissions and approvals. You need consents. You need to make that keep that data very confidential. And the data that you collect, you don't need to name the people. They should be remaining anonymous, because otherwise it could jeopardize their confidentiality, and they might not be able to give you an answer that they truly want to, because based on their fear of being named. And then understanding of research purpose, the aims and objectives, needs for accuracy, focus, time management, recording, reporting, and analysis. So what is the importance of research in health and social care? We've talked a bit about it before. So research informs and broadens your understanding of several things before you actually make a decision. So every decision that you make should be research-based. Health and care research is the same. We've mentioned this before. They seek to find answers to questions about the best options available. So we want to make it patient-centered or client-centered, and we want to see what's best available for them. Based on that, we give recommendations based on our research. It then uses these discoveries to make decisions regarding the improvements or changes in practice. So we can diagnose diseases earlier and more accurately. We've talked about this yesterday, providing life-changing treatments. So life-changing treatments could be anything that was not known before, and through research, different drug trials, there have come into knowledge of everyone that there are treatments that can change your life. Prevent people from developing conditions. Again, research tells us what are the conditions that we could have if we don't exercise regularly, for instance, or we don't eat properly, or we don't sleep properly. So we know these from research, and these then save us from developing certain health conditions, improving health and care for generations to come, and ensuring everyone has a better quality of life. We've seen this video before, so I'm not going to do you want to see this video? You've seen it already. I think we should proceed further. So if we're talking about a research, a topic for research, we can have a look at this research proposal. How do we have to make a research proposal? So if I open this up for you. I hope you can see my screen. So, So there are different research projects by topics that you can do, and so you can have it on the A to Z here. So you can have it on acute care, analytics and data, child and young people. For instance, here you can have it on inequalities, integrated care. So if I just open up inequalities, I hope you can see my screen, everyone. So yeah, so here you have the impact of COVID-19 on service provision and maternal and neonatal outcomes through the lens of inequalities. So you have different researchers that focus on inequality. So if I just open up one, so this is a research project.
We are not seeing that one, inequality,
Okay.
and we are not
Yeah,
seeing.
that's fine. That's what I was concerned about. I'll start sharing again. Um, Yeah, so this one, I hope you can see this. So I've gone into the same website, and then I've the Health Foundation, and then I've clicked on the research project named Understanding and Learning from the Impact of Changes in Colorectal Cancer Care Delivery in Light of COVID-19 and their interplay with socio-economic inequalities. So this is the project. So there's an introduction to this project regarding the aims and objectives. So this is not too much, but these are different. The idea is to give you hints of what you could do. So if I stop sharing this and I start sharing some more projects, let me just share them with you. Just give me a minute. Taking time. Just a minute. Share my screen. We will. Okay. So that was one website to go into a topic of your choice. I'm going to try this once more. If it doesn't open because it's giving me some trouble, I'm going to then not go for opening this. So this is basically how would you choose your research. Now, you have to actually agree to on a topic for research. So a research proposal will be developed by you. This is task 3. And so let's say you have your name here, the title the title of the project may be what makes us healthy, for instance, an introduction to the social determinants of health, for instance. So these are two different topics. What is your role within the organization, and how are you linked to your proposal topic of research? As a student researcher, I have chosen the topic, what makes us healthy, and this is going to be the area of research that I wish to undertake for the completion of my unit assignment. So this is how you're going to write down your research proposal, and then state the aims and objectives of your research. So your aim will be to understand if social determinants play a role in the individual's health and lifestyle. Your objectives will be, why is good health important? You want to understand why. You want to understand what influences health. You want to understand what can bring about change in health and social care system. The purpose of this research is to, you'll have a background here, and you'll have to give an introduction also. Just a minute. This link is giving me trouble. I'll start sharing.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, please, I need to leave the room and log in on my system. Is that okay, please?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Sharing again. Okay, so there we are. Okay. So has anyone else thought of a research project? Any idea of what you want to do? Or you've not thought of it as yet? Anyways, you can always discuss your topics with us. We are free. We're happy to listen to your ideas. So evidence-based practice, what it is, it's a process that is used to review, analyze, translate the latest research, latest evidence, scientific evidence. So you have scientific evidence that is recent and you want to review it, you want to analyze it and translate this latest evidence into practice, into best practice. So the goal is to quickly incorporate whatever best available research there is, along with clinical experience and patient preference. So you're having clinical experiences on the provider side, and you're having patient preference on the customer side. And then you're incorporating this into clinical practice. So nurses can make informed patient care decisions, and evidence-based practice is the cornerstone of clinical practice. So it requires that decisions about health care are based on the best available and current and valid and relevant evidence. So these decisions should be made by those receiving care, informed by the tactic and explicit knowledge of those providing care within the context of available resources. So how do we go about with working in how do you get involved actually in evidence-based practice? So when you're working in interprofessional teams, there's an inquiry that you want to make. For instance, you want to make an inquiry about needle stick injuries. So you want to know why are they happening, and so you're seeing the practice that is going on, and you're reflecting on it, and you're learning through it, and you're inquiring more about it then. I'll just put on these annotations so make it more clear. So it starts with inquiry, like an inquiry, like a question that I made. Practice question, what is the evidence there? And you get it translated, that data that you have, it's going to be translated. So whatever you have over here, that's going to add to your learning, and then it's going to ask you more questions. And then based on all of this, you go and look for what the best practices are there out there for this particular inquiry. And you improve your practice based on these best practices. And then you reflect back and you ask yourself whether you were using these best practices or not. If not, what could be the way in changing your practices? So this ultimate goal, the ultimate goal of this evidence-based practice should be improvement in your practice. Hope that is clear. So then you have certain ethical considerations that need to be there at all times. So in research, there's a set of principles that guide your research designs and practices. These principles include voluntary participation, informed consent, anonymity, confidentiality, potential for harm, and results communication. So when you're doing research, you need to make the people understand that they're doing whatever they're doing, it's voluntary, and they're not going to be remunerated for that unless you want to. But ideally, you should have a research that doesn't involve such stuff. Informed consent. So the people who you are involving in your research, they should be informed. You should be taking their consent, but they should be informed about whatever the research is about. Everything, like everything should be transparent in front of them. If there's any harm in the research, that should be made clear, so that if they still want to be part of it, it's up to them. Anonymity, as I mentioned earlier, it's making the people anonymous. Their identity would not be disclosed, so that their confidentiality can be maintained. If there's any potential for harm, again, that should be communicated, and the results of the study should be communicated to them also. So scientists and researchers should always adhere to a certain code of conduct when collecting data from others. You should always have these in considerations. So these considerations project the rights of research participants. So these research participants that you have as people in your research as a sample, enhance your research validity and maintain your scientific integrity, so that people can trust your work, and then they can, if they want to replicate, they can do it for in the future. So research ethics matters for scientific integrity, human rights and dignity, and collaboration between science and society. So these principles make sure that participation in studies is voluntary, informed, and safe. So people, they're safe when they're being a part of your study. If there's a drug trial, you'll have to talk about what safety measures are you taking there. So if there's an adverse event happening, what are the safety measures that you're going to take? That everything should be explained to them in their own language, in lay terms. Developing a timeline for research is very important. So this timeline it's an essential tool, and it illustrates the chronology. So when are you doing, what thing are you doing when, like everything is mentioned there. So of events or activities. So we use timelines for research, studies, and event planning. So timelines make it much easier for students to understand the historical events related to any subject in an orderly manner. Sorry. So it's in order. So you have timelines. For instance, in this month you're going to collect. You're making your proposal. You're developing your proposal. You're developing your questionnaire. The next month you might go for data collection. The month after that you might go for. This is based on long-term projects, but yours is shorter, so the timelines will be more shrunken. So in a timeline, you should include the starting and the end date of your project. As I said, the project cannot run on forever. You should also make sure that there is a preference to the events that you include in your timeline in your project description. So this is a timeline that's an example. So the total project hours are 350. The work week is Monday to Friday. So this is Jane Husky, a project of Jane's, and it's 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I will have weekly lab meetings with my advisor to track progress and troubleshoot any major issues. I will also be consulting regularly with graduate students in the lab working on related projects. So as this is very evident, the 10 weeks given to, the 10 weeks given to this project, and then the different months that have been mentioned. And how many hours will be given. So for instance, and then there's a task description. So in this task, what will she do? So there are different tasks given based on every week. So this is a good timeline. And if you're struggling or you are somewhere ahead, you might have to change this timeline then. So changes will be made over here and over here. So if I show you this screen. So you presenting potential evidence-based practice. So in this, there are there's basically 6 steps. So you're in this whole process. So you're assessing the patient. Start with the patient. Determine the clinical problem or question that arises from the care of the patient. Ask a focused clinical question. So you're constructing a well-built clinical question derived from the case, acquire evidence to answer the question, select the appropriate resources, and conduct a search. So this is the search that you're doing on the internet for evidence. Appraise the quality of evidence, appraise that the evidence for its validity, and applicability. So how useful is it in your clinical practice, this whatever practice that you want to include? Apply the evidence to patient care. So you're returning to patient, integrating the evidence that you gathered from your clinical expertise and the patient preferences, apply it to practice. Evaluate the patient's outcome and your own preferences. So it starts with assess, ask, acquire, appraise, apply, and evaluate. This is a cycle that goes on for presenting potential evidence-based practice. So you're explaining the importance of aims and objectives. So what is an aim? It's quite similar to an objective, but it's more longer term. So your research aims describe the purpose or main goal of the project. It helps your reader to understand the focus of your research and gives them the idea of what you are actually trying to accomplish. Research aims are found in their own subsections under the introduction section of all research documents, regardless of whether they are dissertations or research papers. So every research project has to have an aim. Without that, you cannot progress. So in most instances, a research aim is expressed as a broad statement of the main goal. So it might be synonymous with the goal of the study and doesn't need to be more than one sentence. So you might have just one aim, but in other instances, you may have 3 or 4 aims. The exact format of the outline will vary depending on your preference, but it should all explain the purpose. So what is your context, your objective, the actual aim, and how you plan to accomplish it. So this highlights your objectives. So the research aim could have 3 parts. So you would have, why is this research necessary? What is the purpose of this research and how will you accomplish it? So this should be a part of your research aims. Research objectives, they're a bit different. So they define what your study is going to answer actually. So, but research objectives, the aim answers what your study question is, but the research objectives outline how it is going to answer, how you're going to answer it. So those objectives break down each component of your research project into smaller portions, each presenting a key section of it. So almost all dissertations and theses are organized into numbered lists, and each item gets its own chapter. So each of your research objectives should have the following. So it should be, they should be SMART objectives, basically. So the first is specific. So is your research you intend to take, is it unclear or is it focused and well-defined? So you have to talk about one specific topic. So for instance, if I'm talking about social determinants of health, I'm not going to talk about economic determinants in that. I'm just going to talk about social determinants. So my research has to be very specific, or my research objective should be very specific. The second, which is not mentioned here, is measurable. How will you measure your results? How will you measure the outcome of your study, or how will you measure social determinants, let's say? So your objectives should be measurable. They should be accessible. So what method will you use to measure your progress and determine when you have accomplished your goal? So this shows that how are you going to assess, how are you going to say that you've achieved your goal? And then obtainable, do you have the necessary support? Do you actually, is it realistic? So if you don't have the support, if you don't have the resources, it's no point doing that research. For instance, if you want to say that I would want to collect data from 1,000 individuals regarding their COVID-19 vaccination experience, you can't do that, because for you to do that, you need a longer time period, whereas you just have a few weeks now for submitting your work. So it should be obtainable, and facilities to execute the project. You have the facilities, you have other resources also. Is it relevant? So does the action that you propose support the achievement of your research aim? And then is it time bound? So again, within the time frame that you're giving, are you going to complete your study? So that has to be mentioned. So there's a difference between research objectives and aims. So an aim will focus on what a project proposes to achieve, while objectives focus on how the project will achieve this goal. The research objectives are more specific than the research aims. So they'll be more in-depth, whereas the research aims are more broader. Objectives focus on the short-term and immediate outcomes of a project, while the aim focuses on the outcome, which is a longer term. And it would be best to write an objective as a numbered list. So number 1, number 2, number 3. Research aims can be written in one sentence or short paragraph. So here we are explaining the ethical considerations that apply to the area of research of your research project. So word ethics is derived from the Greek word ethos, which means custom or character. So ethics is an understanding of the nature of conflicts that would arise from moral imperatives and how best we may deal with them. So it deals with choices we make and our actions in relation to these choices. And it deals with the choices made by both clinicians and patients and the duties and obligations of clinicians to their patients. Medical ethics also deals with the choices made by the society, the distribution of resources, and access to healthcare and dilemmas arising from them. So ethical considerations, as I said, there should be voluntary participation, there should be informed consent, anonymity should be there should be confidentiality, potential for harm should be explained to the participants, and results should be communicated. The ethical issues of informed consent, risk of harm, confidentiality, anonymity, conflict of interest, if there's any one party, whether the participants or you have different interests in the project. So that should be made clear. They should be considered and presented with a plan on how these ethical issues will be managed. So in healthcare research, what are the ethical considerations that we could have? So ethics in medical research deals with the conflicts of interest across various levels. So guidelines have proposed for standardized ethical practice throughout the globe. The 4 fundamental principles of ethics are autonomy, that every person has the autonomy to decide whether they want to be a part of the study or not. Non-maleficence is not giving and not providing any harm. So it's not giving, the research should not harm anyone in any way. Beneficence, so it should be beneficial to the society and to the participants. And justice, so it should be justified. Whatever you're doing, it has to have justice. So analyze your own current skills and knowledge in being able to conduct a literature review in health and social care towards evidence-based practice. So do your SWOT analysis, its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Read a handout 2D1, improvement, knowledge and skills practice. So you can have a look at this. So for instance, how do we identify the strengths? So let's say, what do you do well? What makes you stand out from your competitors? What advantages do you have over other businesses? Your examples could be your loyalty, your abundant financial resources. So for every analysis, every point of analysis, you have different examples here. Then your weaknesses, what do your customers complain about? It could be low profit margins, it could be an intellective system, it could be high turnover rates. What areas do your business struggle in the most? So this is analyzing actually how are you going to conduct a literature review in health and social care. What strengths are there, what weaknesses are there, what opportunities do you have, and what threats do you have in your own research? So while you're planning a research, what are this? You have to do a SWOT analysis based on that. The opportunities is listing of all possibilities that an organization can pursue or explicit to gain benefit. Have a read of this, and then the last is the threats. So what threats do you have? Are your competitors becoming stronger? Are there emerging trends that amplify one of your weaknesses? So these are different. This is based on business models, but you can make one based on your own research area. So what are the strengths that you have, and what are the weaknesses that you have? You can give different examples. What are the opportunities that you have in hand, and what are the threats to your research? You can think of those. These are the references if you want to read them. The resources will be shared with you on Monday. Any questions?
Hello.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is that on the previous assignment,
yeah,
I noticed that at the last page, it was
Yeah.
there that the